Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. In this episode, we'll be looking at various clips between Peter Doocy and Jen Psaki over this Disinformation Governance Board. Now, many of you know there's a whole debacle going on with Roe v. Wade, but we can't let that sway from other news, other big news with what the government is doing by trying to censor our freedom of speech. Now, as always, folks, if you want to join us here at the Bald Brad Show, or heck, support a conservative, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, share this link with your friends and family all over social media. With that being said, this comes from our friends over at the Daily Wire, as well as Fox News, and they have this to say. It says, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki dodged direct questions, not once, but twice, folks, about the newly announced Disinformation Governance Board and whether or not it would actively seek to censor stories that could be damaging to Biden and his administration. Now, there is multiple clips here, folks, of this engagement between Peter Doocy and Jen Psaki. The first one being Peter Doocy's asking point blankly, hey, does Joe Biden even know that this thing is being created by DHS? And let's listen to her spinning and not even answering his question, but the spinning that she does here on this story. Absolutely mind-blowing.
And then on another topic, does the president know that DHS is putting together this Disinformation Governance Board?
Well, Peter, I think I would note, and I'm not sure if this has been in your reporting yet, but this is a continuation of work that was done under the prior administration, under the Trump administration, to take steps to address disinformation, address the use of disinformation in helping smugglers.
So she's about to get into something interesting here, which I'll cover in a moment. But this whole idea of like, well, Trump did it, so it must be okay that we're doing it. Two wrongs make a right. You know, just because Trump did something doesn't mean that all of us Republicans and conservatives are on board with it. We like a lot of what Trump did, but it doesn't mean that he did everything perfectly. And so this whole messaging that she's going with is just idiotic at its core, because she's banking on the fact of, well, you guys were okay with it when Trump did it, so you must be okay with it now that we're doing it, which is completely wrong. We don't want our speech to be censored in any way, shape, or form, let alone have the government responsible for telling us what we can and cannot say. Listen to what she says next here.
Prompt the movement of more migrants across to the border. I would note that the first example given in the announcement about this was DHS's work to understand how, quote, misinformation spread by human smugglers that prey on vulnerable populations attempting to migrate to the United States. So for anyone who's out there who may be concerned about the increase in migrants to the border, this is the kind of apparatus that's working to address disinformation. And again, continuing the work of the Department of Homeland Security in 2020. Something we're currently applauding.
So what she's currently saying here is, hey, you know what? There's all this disinformation that's going towards these smugglers, drug traffickers, sex traffickers, all these people, and they're communicating that with the people in Honduras, El Salvador, South America. And they're saying, look, America's open borders. They want you to come in. You get a free pass, amnesty for all. And she's saying that, oh, well, that's the information that we're looking for. That's the information that we're going to be trying to limit. You know, or you could just come out and say, hey, you know what? You can't come in. We're putting back in place Trump's policies. Don't even try to bother. We have military down at the border. If you have your papers in line, come on in. If you don't, you're not welcome. Don't even try. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be sent back. But this whole messaging thing is quite mind-boggling that she's trying to push here, because it's not just that their messaging is poor regarding the U.S. immigration crisis, but it's also the things that they're doing, meaning their actual actions are poor as well. By removing Trump's policies and not doing the continuation of building the border wall, meaning actively constructing it, you're portraying as well information that's not disinformation. It's literally factual, that you just want these people to pour across the border. They are well aware that you're flying them to different parts of the country. So this whole idea that this stuff's disinformation and that's getting connected to these smugglers and stuff like that, it's not disinformation. It's just factual. So again, their idea of disinformation is completely mind-blowing and honestly completely just wrong. Well, you also have Peter Doocy here pushing the idea of, just in terms of what Biden wants out of this, does he want the people on this board to censor information that is not helpful to him? So he's bringing this back because she never answered his question. She just completely dodged it. He asked, hey, you know what? Do you know if Joe Biden is aware of this whole governance board as all? Because we all know his cognitive decline, which is probably one of the reasons why Peter Doocy's asking this. But she completely dodges it, which should be a scary answer to all of us. The fact that she's not willing to answer it, because who the hell knows if Joe Biden knows what's going on? Makes me wonder, that's for damn sure. Let's go ahead and watch this.
Just in terms of what the president wants out of this, does he want the people on this board to start censoring information that is not helpful to him?
Well, let me be clear on exactly what this board does, or what the work they are doing does. And in their announcement, which is publicly available on the Department of Homeland Security website for anyone to read, it says, quote, "The primary mission is to establish best practices to ensure that efforts to understand and respond to disinformation are done in ways that protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties, and the right to free speech."
What? Does that make sense to anybody? I'm going to play that back because that doesn't make sense to me.
Be clear on exactly what this board does, or what the work they are doing does. And in their announcement, which is publicly available on the Department of Homeland Security website for anyone to read, it says, quote, "The primary mission is to establish best practices to ensure that efforts to understand and respond to disinformation are done in ways that protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties, and the right to free speech."
How can you censor somebody's disinformation, but then at the same time that they have freedom of speech? Freedom of speech includes disinformation and misinformation. You are free to speak whatever you would like. So it doesn't make any sense here, folks, in her messaging and the stuff that she's pushing by saying, oh, it's best practices to ensure thwarting of disinformation doesn't harm civil liberties, and that we're going to ensure that you have freedom of speech. But at the same time, if you push a narrative that we don't like, well, you know, it's just going to evaporate. It's going to be gone. We're not for it. We're going to censor you. We're going to block your accounts. We're going to do everything we can to go against you because we don't agree with what you say. And then Peter Doocy's going, you're not answering any of my questions. So I'm just going to move on here and kind of jab you one in the face with this whole Nina Jankowicz thing, because she's been put in charge of this board and she's been coming out in support of all this crazy stuff in the past. She has like this Mary Poppins song that she put out there, and now she's trying to walk back all that stuff she's done prior because now it's gotten a ton of news. Well, Peter Doocy knows that this is an issue and something that a lot of Republicans have problems with in terms of her leading this governance board. Let's see what she has to say in terms of his questioning.
There's this woman, Nina Jankowicz, who is going to be in charge of the board. She has said that she thinks the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. So should we look forward in the future to her censoring internet traffic about the Hunter Biden laptop?
I think I noted exactly what the objective of the board is, including continuing the work of the prior administration. And the woman you noted has extensive experience and has done extensive work addressing disinformation. She has testified before Congress, testified in Europe. She has worked closely with the Ukrainians and has unique expertise, especially at this moment we're facing.
Expertise? She was wrong. She called the Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation as if it was like make believe, like it was fabricated by the Russians, but it wasn't. It was real. And now you're going to say that she's an expert in all this stuff and that, you know, she's testified in front of Congress. She still hasn't walked back what she said. But we're supposed to sit here and just take it wholeheartedly that we're supposed to trust you and this crazy lady that's singing Mary Poppins songs about leftist ideology topics, and that Russian disinformation is just being poured out into the country, and that we should all be aware of it and be careful of it. And that if you actually say Russian disinformation yourself, that you're going to be censored and banned and all this other stuff. Again, she doesn't answer any of the questions here. Well, Peter, it's something that you could just find on the internet yourself and just read up on. No, we can't. Because your actions contradict the words that come out of your mouth, and that those very words that come out of your mouth, whether they physically come out of your mouth or are put on the website, are contradictory to what you actually do. Very similar with the DHS secretary. Very similar with Nina Jankowicz. Very similar with your boss, Joe Biden. Very similar with what you do, Jen Psaki, all the time. You guys say one thing and then you do another. Or if you do something, you don't ever answer the questions that we're trying to figure out in terms of what you're doing in the first place. This stuff is so annoying because you can never get an answer from this woman at all. At least when you had Donald Trump's press secretaries like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Kayleigh McEnany, Sean Spicer, all these people, you know, you may have not liked the way that they answered your questions, but at least they answered your damn questions a lot of the times. I'm not saying every time, because they're press secretaries. They're supposed to spin things. But every question we get from here is just like some cockamamie answer. Well, it says Psaki again skirted the direct question regarding censorship, saying that she had already explained what the board's primary objective was supposed to be, and again claiming that the Biden administration was only continuing work that began under the former President Donald Trump. The woman you noted has extensive experience and has done extensive work addressing disinformation. Well, that doesn't mean that we should trust her. Again, this is the lady that literally pushed disinformation herself And she wasn't even aware that the messaging that she was pushing was disinformation. So we're supposed to trust her on this whole thing. We're supposed to trust our freedom of speech with this lady, especially looking at the stuff that she's been posting on social media. I don't think so, folks. But there you have it. Jen Psaki not answering Peter Doocy's questions. And you know what? There is a little bit of a theory that's out there that this whole idea of these leftists that have, I guess, somehow infiltrated the Supreme Court in some way, shape, or form, because a lot of people are saying Sotomayor's clerk or somebody released this Roe versus Wade document where it's supposed to be overturned. Some people are saying there's so much stuff going on with the Biden administration with what's taking place at the U.S.-Mexico border, with the immigration crisis. You have the Putin's price hike, in other words, inflation. Really, it should be Biden's inflation crisis. You have the crisis that's taking place at Ukraine and Russia. You have Iran. You have the oil crisis. All these things are taking place. The theory is that they're trying to spin this and move it away from what's going on with Joe Biden and move it towards something like that can create a bleep storm. And honestly, folks, it's not a bad theory because that's the one thing that would do it. When you start messing with Roe v. Wade, you're seeing what's happening. Leftists are losing their mind, and now everybody's gravitated towards that story. Everybody's hyper focused on it. Nobody's talking about Johnny Depp anymore, Amber Heard. Nobody's talking about the free speech debacle that we just covered here. Nobody's talking about immigration anymore. Nobody's talking about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. Nobody's talking about that. Everybody's focused on what's going on with the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade, leaked letter, leaked messaging, leaked document, I guess is the best way of phrasing it. But I don't know, folks. I find it interesting that that's all randomly happening, especially when we're dealing with things like this, where the government literally is trying to actively censor our speech and just saying, oh, well, we're just going to go after the Russians. We're just going to go after the smugglers, all these things. I don't believe it one bit, folks. But let me know down in the comments what you think about the theory. What do you think about this? Do you trust the government to control this? I personally don't. But as always, folks, I look forward to reading your responses. And as always, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share this link with your friends and family all over social media. And folks, I will see you later here on The Bald Brad Show.